welcome. This is Erica Glessing, and you're joining me for the Erica Glessing Show. Today's show, I'm really super excited about it. I've got someone in New York with me, which of course I love to go to different places with the show. The woman who's joining me, she is a 12-time Emmy award-winning journalist. She's an executive producer. She's host of the Broadway Profiles, but you might have seen her on the evening news. Very blessed to have with me the creative and talented Tamsen Fadal. Welcome, Tamsen.
Hi there. How are you?
I am good. I'm ready to rock in 2020. I don't know about you.
Oh gosh, I'm so ready. Right?
I know. It's just I have such high hopes because I look at 2020 and I think, we all need some clear vision, right?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I believe it, and I feel like as the January 1 gets closer, we're kind of getting it. Don't you think?
We are going to be in a new time. It's a new time. I saw so much of people choosing to not do things anymore at the end of 2019. They're like, you know what? That didn't work for me. And 2020 feels like more space,
Yeah, I hope so. And I think it's also about just, trying to figure things out and focus. There's so many different distractions. And I feel like we say it every year, but I've never seen it like it is now. And I think just kind of coming back to basics and focusing and just giving yourself time to have clarity instead of, wake up in the morning, pick up the phone, go through the Instagram feed, go through all the Apple News, go through, I feel like we're at warp speed these days, and it's difficult and it's hard to process, and it's hard to really just kind of settle in on what you want. And I've been doing what you're doing, is kind of taking the time to get ready to do it the right way. And so I have some clarity on what I want next.
I'm interested in creativity, and we've had that conversation briefly before we started the recording. Tell me first about a time like when you weren't inspired, or when things were kind of like not really work. I mean, it's hard when you have such a beautiful profile as you, but time when it didn't work, and then what you did to kind of turn that around.
Yeah, I guess I look, we all have it. Like, we have the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows of everything. I think, around my divorce was a really tough time for me. It was a time that, I had, everything was new friends, new people that were out there, new relationships, a new way of looking at things, new apartment in terms of, somebody not in my apartment anymore. So that was a lot of firsts for me. And it was a time I was not creative at all and couldn't have even imagined, picking up my computer and writing again, or kind of figuring a way out of that hole. And in time, what I did, I guess, I did everything in kind of 90-day increments for myself, because it was the only way I could make a habit work. And I was very systematic about it, and just said, like, today you're really simple. You're getting up, you're going to walk the dog, you're going to go get coffee, you're going to get yourself dressed, you're going to go to work. The next day you're going to get up, walk the dog, get yourself coffee, you're going to, try to just sit down in front of your computer and write one page, and then you're going to go to work. And I found that was really the way that I had to go about things in my life. And it was about kind of shedding the old, decluttering. I know we say spark joy now, but there was no such thing as that before. Then it was just kind of like decluttering your life. And I tried to do that in a lot of different ways. My home, people that were not good for me anymore and kind of toxic and weighing me down, projects I was working on that made no sense anymore. And I figured out that was a way to do it for me, and I kind of followed that path, and I went in 90-day increments, and I wound up at the end of that writing a book, 3+ years later. It took me a long time, but to get those ideas down of how I got out of that place where I couldn't figure out how to pivot, and was finally able to do that.
Exactly. And I just got chills when you said that, because for me, like, coming out of a divorce myself, I had written about happiness for years. That was my main theme. And then there was so much weird crap that
Sure.
was like, how can I be a happiness expert and go through divorce? Well, it did end up being the happiest thing for me, of course, but it's kind of interesting what stops us, like what blocks us, what keeps us from being in that creation space. And I love this that you said, like, I will write one page. I love that.
Well, it's overwhelming if you try to do whatever it is, whether it's writing, whether it's, getting back into acting, whether it's going back to your job and, being all in, whatever it is, it can be very, very overwhelming. And when you get overwhelmed, there's, two responses. You either run from it or you're paralyzed, and you have to decide which one. For me, it was paralyzed. I didn't have the the flight kind of response. I had the I can't do anything at all kind of response. And I
Wow.
really had to work my way out of it. I took up yoga. I didn't do meditation, which I'm trying to learn how to do now, but I did yoga, and I just made myself very committed to sort of going through the basics to be able to, it was kind of survival, really.
I wanted to chat with you. Just going to sort of jump around a little bit. Everyone who knows
Hmm.
me loves this about me. It's partly because I'm ADD. But tell me a little bit about your passion for like being inspired and meeting interesting women. I'm very curious about how you kind of seem to surround yourself by other light beings. And I really think there's something to putting yourself in this space of greatness. And you seem to really have a knack for that. So I just kind of wanted to ask you a
Oh,
little bit
thank you.
more.
Yeah, you know what? I like stories. That's what my job is. I'm a journalist, and by nature, I just love people's stories, and I think that that's really what it is. And it's just kind of served me. I enjoy hearing stories. They inspire me way more than I inspire them, I think. And I like to repeat the stories to other people to help them. And that's kind of, that's what my job is all about. That's what I do every single day of my life. And so I think that is how I seem to find my way to people that I think are really incredible.
If you were going to coach someone on awakening a book or awakening a creative, a
Mhm.
Broadway play or just staying with something, what would you coach them on? What would be some of the things you might recommend?
I guess I think that you really need to do whatever it is you do for yourself. I find that a lot of people do things because they think that's what they're supposed to do next, and they don't necessarily find happiness in it. I spoke with somebody recently who's an attorney and never really wanted to be an attorney. Not ever what she wanted to do. She wanted to be on Broadway. And I said, that's what you need to do then. And now 2 years later, she's running around and she's doing that. She's working on different Broadway shows, and it might not
Wow.
be the capacity that she was going to do it at 25 years old or 19 years old, but she's doing it. And so I think you have to really focus on what you want and go after it. And I don't think there's any time better than there is right now because we have access to things. We don't need so many experts in our world to be able to get to people, and people are sort of at our fingertips, right? And I think if
Absolutely.
you are determined and you reach out and you figure out what exactly it is you want and you stay in that area and you're passionate about it, people feel that and they want to help you. I really believe that. And it sounds kind of trite, but I really do believe that people feel that kind of energy and they want to be surrounded by it.
We had another conversation last time we chatted about as a woman who is aging, like as a woman
Hmm.
in the newsroom who's not 28 anymore, right?
Hmm.
And you have
Hmm.
this, you've been able
48.
to, yeah, you've been able to like kick it. And it really wasn't done. Like even when I was young, like it wasn't seen. You could not be 50 and be a woman on television.
Mm-mm.
Tell me a little
Mm-mm.
bit about what it takes to keep that game on.
I don't really. I think it's the time that we're living in right now. Honestly, I don't think about my age as much anymore. But I will say I sat next to somebody, a woman who was about 15 years my senior in another market when I was younger, and she said, "You better get ready because you're going to cap out around 40."
Oh my
And I was,
gosh.
in my early 30s, and I went, 40? I've only have like 8 years left. What? And
What?
so I've woken up every day wondering if this is a day I'm going to be irrelevant. And it isn't until recently, and I still have those fears, but it hasn't been until just recently that I go, hey, wait a minute. Wait, okay, I got past 40. I got past 45. I'm doing
Yeah.
okay. But I
Yeah.
think that's a really scary thing, and it's sad to say about society because I think it's only just recently, maybe in the past year or two, that I've seen women even admit when they're 50 years old, and so they have been my inspiration, that's for sure. But as I kind of chart my own path, I really have to look to them to say, is it okay that I'm saying my age? Is it okay that I'm doing that? Isn't that crazy? It's just so wrong,
Yeah.
but
No,
I'm
because
so proud
people
of
hit
where
it.
we've gotten.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people
and
hit
I
it for
can't wait to see where we're
years.
going to be.
I do too. So why don't you just share with us a little bit about Tamsin this year? What kinds of things are you up to? What are you creating? Obviously, people can find you on the news every day in New York City.
Yes.
What
Yes.
else are you
I'm on
up to?
WPIX TV every day, Monday through Friday. I do the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock newscasts. I work on a Broadway show, and that's a show on television, not an actual. I'm not dancing and singing at night. I wish, but it's a show covering Broadway because that's very exciting to me. me.
Right.
And then at work, I do a segment called Change Makers, where I really get to interview a lot of these amazing, amazing people that are making change, because that is inspiring to me. I love to see it. And then I'm working on another book too. And so that is, kind of more along the lines of what we're talking about, is how to figure out what to do next and how to be okay with what we do next and be okay with pivots in our lives and not second guess them. And if we do second guess them, let that be okay too.
I love it. I know for me that I had no idea that I would be this vivacious and creative at this time in my life. Like, I remember in my 20s, I was also a news reporter, and I just remember thinking, I better do my career now, like, like
Yeah,
I
no, I
remember
know.
being like, I better have my career now because, I really didn't have the awareness of how much would be possible going into our 60s and going into our 70s. And I meet these amazing people now that are doing things well into their years. So it sounds to me, it's kind of what I'm hearing from you is just really don't give up hope.
Well, I think don't give up hope and figure out what it is that you want to do so you can work your way on that path. I've met so many people that have kind of done two things at the same time. They've they've been 100% focused in, in where they are today to make sure that they enjoy every moment of that. But they also are very aware that they might want to do something else, or there might just be a pivot coming, whether it's because they decided to pivot or because somebody else pivoted them. But whatever it is, they're ready for that next place in life instead of dreading it or being fearful of it or regretting it.
Right.
And I think that that's really important, because all that is just kind of wasted energy. There's nothing that's going to come good out of that. And by the way, we've all been there. We've all been there in terms of not knowing what's next and being fearful of it. But I think if you, if you pay attention to what you want, you listen to what you want and not what Instagram says you could do, or what Facebook is telling you, what your friends are doing on Facebook, or what your frenemies are doing on Facebook. I think if you're really focused on exactly what it is that you want to do and are going to do, then you'll position yourself in the right area, and you'll meet those influential people, and you'll meet those people that can maybe move you to the next thing. By the way, the influencers don't have to be the ones with millions of followers. Influencers could be somebody that you've known for a really long time that knows somebody else, or just encourages you the right way. I think that's really important. We've gotten so taken over by the word influencers. I think everybody's an influencer in their own way.
I had a book, it was my first book in 2007, and it influenced one woman to write 9 books. And I'm thinking back on that, and I really didn't see that book as a success. I didn't see it as a commercial success. It was my first book. It was interesting. I mean, I kind of didn't know how to love it because I had some trouble in that area. But you might get your inspiration from a sunrise. I mean, you don't know where the inspiration is from. Like, you might wake up and go, holy crap, how many more sunrises will I have? And if I don't have very many, what am I doing with them?
Right. Absolutely right. I mean, this is all temporary. We're all here for a finite amount of time, and it's temporary. And I try to remember that all the time when I get super stressed out or super frustrated. And it's kind of how I conduct myself after my divorce. Some best piece of advice that I got came from somebody I wasn't a huge fan of. And he said to me, but he knew I was upset. And he said to me, it's not going to be like this 365 days from now. And I was like, what? I can't get through today. But he was right. I didn't even remember what it was like 365 days later. And I think that that's important to note.
Well, you're so inspirational, Tamsen. I'm really grateful that you took the time and came by the show. And everyone who's listening, I just want you to kind of not just hear the words she is saying, but if you look at just coming in as a Lebanese American woman, and you came in and just really every single day knock it out of the ballpark. I'm just inspired by you, and so thankful that you could just keep doing what you're doing. And I did want to also invite you to share with my audience how we can reach you, maybe find your old books, new books, and work with you, find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. My book is The New Single, and it's about finding, fixing, and falling back in love with yourself after a breakup or divorce, and that's on Amazon. And my website is tamsenfidel.com, or you can hit me up on social media. I'm always on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter.
I love it. And look for a new book coming in 2020, most likely.
Yes, I hope so.
I hope so. It's definitely in the works, so we need to keep an eye out for Tamsen, everyone.
Yes, I will let you know. I promise I will be back.
Great.
If you will have me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming.
All right. Thank you.